teachers of Reddit, what's your most NSFW story involving students? NSFW. I worked as an English teaching assistant in a French boarding school, Alice, age 14 to 18, a few years ago. I lived on campus, and for the first week my apartment's toilet didn't flush, so I had to use the school bathroom just down the hall. I had Wednesdays free, and I timed a bathroom break for during one of the lessons to avoid everyone. Walked into the bathroom, and walked in on a girl giving head. I legged it. Edit, an apostrophe. I teach kindergarten. About 3 months into my very first year, I get a message to call a parent, and that it's urgent. Her daughter was doing well in school and didn't seem to be having any social issues. She was always very happy and loved school. So I didn't know what it could be about. I give the mom a call and she tells me, Ms. Ligogo, I have to tell you something my daughter said. But it's very TMI. I tell her to go ahead. Apparently, another child told her daughter about a video she saw where a boy and girl were kissing each other on their privates. And there was milk. Her daughter then came home and told her dad about it, and her poor dad almost passed out. I was super stunned, but promised the mom we would get to the bottom of this. I got my app and guidance counselor involved, and it eventually came to light that another girl in our class had memorized her parents' iPad password, and her brother took their parents' iPad and they found those videos on it. She then told the first girl about it during lunch. Thankfully, it just turned out to be kids being a little too curious for their own good, and there was no foul play, but boy, were conferences awkward that spring. When I was in school, a substitute teacher tried pulling a deaf kid's hearing aid out because she thought they was earphones and that he was ignoring her. I'm still a piece of shit for finding this funny. Never saw that substitute teacher again. I work at a private language school. We have students from all over the world, but a lot tend to come from the Middle East. I had one female student, maybe in her early 20s, who was a very conservative Muslim. She was sweet as can be, made amazing food for me and my coworkers, and was in general as pleasant a student as I will ever come across. She was in my class that essentially teaches advanced English through an American history/culture/values textbook. One chapter is about education in the United States, with a section detailing other options for Americans such as trade schools/vocational schools. We were reviewing for the test with online flashcards, and vocational schools pops up. She's the only student who raises her hand and responds the schools where you do hand jobs. Thank goodness none of my other language learner students knew what she said, but I had to really fight to not burst out laughing. I told her after class privately that her choice of words had a sexual connotation and she also thought it was funny/was embarrassed. But to this day, the very conservative Muslim student talking about schools where they teach hand jobs makes me laugh. One boy took another boy's mouthpiece for trumpet, ejaculated on it, and put it back. I was substituting kindergarten and got sent into the bathroom to assist a boy. I walked in and asked if he needed help, and he responds, well, Mr. Luther, I got a big mess in here and I'm gonna need some help cleaning it up. I have Vietnamesque flashbacks about the inside of that stall. So much poo. So many TP rolls lost. When I was doing my student teaching, one of my 8th graders whipped his dick out in class and pissed out the classroom window. Middle school teacher. I have a few foreign students just learning English. At the start of class a kid walks in with spiky hair. A foreign student asks why his hair is all sticky. The kid says, I got gum in my hair. Foreign kid says very loudly, who got cum in your hair? I had to walk out of the classroom. I was laughing too hard. I work in an alternative school. All students are mentally ill or emotionally disturbed. I have so many stories, but for brevity's sake, mine a 17-year-old girl giving a blowjob to a 14-year-old peer behind a curtain in the gym. Got caught when someone bumped into them. Kid who would get very aggressive then would strip naked, shit on the floor and roll in it so no one would physically restrain him. teen girl who became aggressive with us and wound up on the floor fighting staff and turned out to be wearing torn crotch sweatpants with no underwear, giving a frightening view I will never forget. Minus 15-year-old male student using a computer in the computer lab during class. A peer points out he has one hand on the mouse and one hand down his baggy sweatpants while beating off. He was doing this while playing Snood. So many great memories. Not a teacher, student. But one of our teachers invited a bunch of 17-year-olds to her house for a few drinks and sex. One of the students' parents found out and reported it. She was fired, and the whole thing made the news here in the UK. Too many to name. The 6th grader who was caught sneaking into the wrong building to receive blowjobs. More than once. With different girls. The 7th grader who wrote her boyfriend a note, dotting all the I's with hearts, asking him to not hit her anymore, but still her play with his big dick on the school bus. Oh. All the porn mags and DVDs we've confiscated from kids who brought them in to show off. And all the times we've tried to work the phrase make it fit into everyday conversation, to see who can keep a straight face. Had a student push a teacher on crutches down a set of stairs as they were trying to fight another student. NSFW in that was literally an unsafe working environment. The teacher went to hospital but was fine. Back in work 2 days later. She is a proper battle axe of a woman. Not a teacher, but I did volunteer in a kindergarten a few times, bored over the summer. Basically just read books to the kids. One horrifying moment was when I was kneeling on the floor helping a kid with something, and then I felt another kid prod me in my back. Turned around, and a 4-year-old kid had an erection, and that was what was prodding my back. Had no idea WTF to do, so I just shooed him away and sat there worrying about the police arresting me for pedophilia or something. Reverse it. I was the student. I'm foreign, and in 7th grade I barely spoke any English. The teacher was doing some maths and wrote the word "some" on the blackboard. His handwriting sucked. So genuinely with no perverted intentions. As a foreigner who had no idea what the word meant, I asked him, "Mr. McSmelly, what does cum mean?" It took him a minute to figure it out. But holy shit, he barely could hold it in from what I remember. He just replied, "That says some." The cringe was intense with this one. I worked at a daycare, and we only had a couple of kids, because it was so early. One of the girls was starting to tell us that she had ghosts in her house, and I half asleep asked her why she thinks so. So she tells me sometimes at night she can hear the ghost boohooing. So I said, "Yeah, that's interesting. I never heard a ghost before." She replies with, "Oh yeah, it sounds like this." And then she proceeds to make sex noises that are clearly of the orgasm kind. Sputtered in my coffee, scalded my tongue and quickly changed the subject. Couldn't look her parents in the eyes for a couple of weeks. A mom was at school to check out her kid for the day, walked by the boys' bathroom and heard weird sounds. Reported it to the office. An administrator went in and found a boy and a girl in a stall doing it. Apparently he was taking her from behind and she was pantsless. He tried to run but got stopped. She just stood there smiling and acting like nothing was weird about the situation. All 3-year-old kid told me his mom was zigzagging and threw up and then had to lay on the bed because she ate too much spicy food. Nah man. I think mommy was drunk. They just told you that to preserve your innocence. The kid used to come out of the bathroom. This is in a preschool classroom, so it's inside the room. But first, pants down. Post poop to bend right over and ask if his butt was clean. Lord, yes, it's clean. And I can see it. Our kid puked on my legs and sandaled feet and all over herself and in her hair. Had to clean it up in the dark bathroom during nap with baby wipes and my cell phone light to see. Some of it got in my own hair and I didn't realize I hadn't gotten all of it out until later that evening when I met my sister to see a play. Gross. Not a teacher. But in grade 7 one of peers decided to print nude photos and put them in his locker, which wouldn't actually lock. Oh, and he printed them from the school printers too. He was caught that day and lost all access to computers for the rest of the year. Not a teacher yet, But I heard a horror story about a kindergartner that was having some serious stomach issues in the bathroom. He must have been shitting on the throne when he vomited into his little pants and boxer briefs. And he put them back on in order to walk out of the bathroom to tell the teacher that something was up. Probably was a pretty shitty day for that teacher. Pun intended. Not me, but someone new through friends I used to party with. He was a 40-something high school teacher and he taught grade 12 something. I can't remember. He used to bring some of his cooler students out partying, which of course was the prettier, more popular girls. At the time I had only just graduated high school, so I thought he was really cool. Looking back, he was a creep. He ended up getting caught and lost his job. Not a teacher, but at secondary school, ages 11 to 16 in my country, we had this teacher who was almost 40 years old, and she had a certain demeanor about her. She was kinda attractive for her age, and being an all-boys school, things were said about her by the pupils. Anyway, she would usually waste most of the 90-minute lesson by telling us her life stories. Some of these stories are about how she had 2 miscarriages, how she thinks many boys wanted to date her daughter, and how attractive she is, how the same daughter had a preterm birth, that her neighbors like peeking when she is outside her house wiping down the windows or something. Basically, she would rather tell us about her life than actually teaching and enable us to pass the damn exam. Sometimes, boys from other classes who would be loitering and skipping classes would come to our classroom and sit there and chat her up and pass the time there because they had nothing better to do with their lives than to pass the time. There was one boy who even invited her to suck his dick in the bathroom, and she joking said yes. I'm sure that she had the intention to sleep with boys who were not even 18 years old yet. Years had passed since I finished secondary school, but lately I've heard about her and how she invited some underage boys, probably her students, to dinner to restaurants, and that her husband had filed for divorce. TL. Doctor, somewhat attractive teacher in school, attracted the wrong kind of attention from the pupils, and is probably divorced by now because of her shitty behavior. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.